Go.
There's so much Dodger smack talk here. It's unbelievable. Okay, let's start here with Johnny Cage, and he says Michael King will walk in free agency and he'll sign with the beloved LA Dodgers.
Well, the whole world now sees the amount of money that's being paid to everybody, from mid-level guys to superstars. I think it's going to be really hard unless there's a special relationship, player management, special relationship, player in the community. Michael King and his wife, by the way, have done a lot of stuff with foundations in his less than 1 year with the San Diego Padres. So maybe he's developed that relationship, but we'll see. I mean, if the theory runs true that everybody sees the money every pitcher's getting, everybody's going to test free agency. We'll see if the Padres can sign him. And, I've been kind of surprised that they have not reached agreement with Cease or King before the winter meeting started, because now we have a different price structure for virtually everybody who becomes a free agent pitcher in baseball. Dodger fan, just kind of walking down the hallway and stealing Christmas gifts under a tree.
Yeah, well, look at this. forever. Sham Diego, Madres are dead. Bye-bye. Thanks for playing.
Okay, thank you very much.
And that's one of the polite ones.
Just glad to give you the opportunity to pile on, but hasn't it become a great rivalry? Holy cow, this has become a great rivalry.
Yeah, and look at this. This is Johnny saying Yamamoto, Glasnow, Gonsolin, Ohtani, Snell, May, Sasaki, Sheehan, Knack, Ryan. You could probably add Michael King to the list. I mean, come on.
There's no doubt. I mean, they have unbelievable pitching. But that being said, let's understand there's a bad history of injuries with Glasnow. Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, Dodger Stadium. Gonsolin's had 2 surgeries. Ohtani is legend. But we don't know, coming off the elbow surgery, how close a pitcher he's going to be to the dominant pitcher he was. Snell is vintage Snell. Who knows what you get the first half of the season? We do know what he's done. Dustin May's had 3 surgeries. Sasaki, young kid, vibrant, talent. Maybe they have to work a six-day rotation with him. Sheehan is coming off elbow surgery. Knack, young guy, young lion, I think pretty good pitcher, but again, you got to do it on every 4th or 5th day basis at Dodger Stadium. They got strength in numbers. I'm not arguing with you at all on that, Johnny. But Snell becomes a big insurance policy, and that's why I think they signed him in the middle of the night.
And they're leaving out Miller, and they're leaving out, is it Grove or is it Stone? One of those guys is hurt.
Well, Gavin Stone won't pitch this year.
Okay, yeah.
But Bobby Miller is there. Can he be what he was a year and a half ago? And Grove is a young guy they are so deep. I mean, the numbers, it's monstrous how deep they are in terms of all these pitching. But there's some asterisks next to a bunch of those guys because they have a history of injuries.
Dodger fan piling on those greedy SOBs. They're going to get everybody.
No, now you got Giant fan upset here.
Okay, let's go to Angel, and he says, bet you anything that had the Padres lost the TV deal, we wouldn't be having this discussion.
I think somewhere along the way, because Peter Seidler was really offended when the national media 2 years ago brought up the question about sustainability. When they were pouring all these assets in and rocketing his payroll, and it was good for baseball, it was good for the players, but he got offended. And then, unfortunately, they wound up losing the $60 million TV deal from Bally Sports, and then they had to pay a $40 million luxury tax bill that came due. So I understand them taking their money down, but they're raking in such volume of money right now in terms of total revenue. I think they owe it to this community not to cut this payroll further, but rather reinvest some. I'm not saying go back to 231 million, but take it back up. You're about 170 now. Let it go to 190 and let them keep this team together or add on, because I don't think they're the same team. If your hand is forced to trade Cease and to trade Arise, I just don't think you're the same team, because I'm not sure you're going to get the same amount of equal talent, as young as it might be, coming in the door.
Isn't it weird how as fans, we get emotional connections to certain players?
Sure.
And that's our guy, like Snell. He's our guy. Yeah, he went to the Giants for a year, but oh my God, he went to the Dodgers. It's amazing how we have these emotional connections. But then at other times, you got to flip your hat around and say, it's a business. And these guys are, the business people, they want to win, but really they want to make money. Every team wants to make money.
Yep. So
you have to sort of acknowledge that fact. And these players just get shuffled around. On one level, good for the players, a lot of opportunity, but geez, you hate to be a young player and get shipped off to, play for the Minnesota Twins or something in a location you don't really want to be.
Yeah, but it's not happening to young players. It's the veteran star players that are getting moved. The young guys are still here because they're cost effective.
But they're the ones that get packaged in the deal, to unload a big contract.
Not all the time, but sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. I mean, nobody's trading Jackson Merrill. I guarantee you that. So he's not a young guy that's going to be thrown into a deal. Next 2 weeks, leading to Christmas, it's going to be interesting. Now, if more names come off the board, John, between now and Christmas Eve, and then there's nobody left to go get, now the Padres got a real problem, because now their hands are going to be forced, and they're not dealing from strength in terms of, we're going to move Cease. Well, maybe you're not going to get what you could get before, and you can't come back and say, well, there's still free agents out there.
Well, here's a wild scenario. So let's assume Ha-Seong Kim is gone, and they haven't committed. The Padres haven't committed to a shortstop. It could be Xander, but maybe not. Let's assume that Xander is traded or he just remains a second. There's no shortstop. Would Tatis or Merrill maybe move into the shortstop just like Mookie Betts did with the Dodgers?
No, because AJ Preller was of the opinion that we got some really good outfielders here. I'm not going to mess with this. There's no reason to create more chaos. You got a shortstop and you got a second baseman. Cronenworth, Bogaerts. You're strong in center. You're strong in right. We got to go find a left fielder if it's not going to be Profar. And if we have to move a Rise, then we have to go find a first baseman. The Cease to Boston trade makes sense if Tristan Casas is coming here. He's a power hitting first baseman from Boston. They got too many guys. Or if Abreu, the young outfielder, is coming from Boston for Dylan Cease, then he goes and he's your left fielder. But we don't know that's a lock. So that's where we are now. Padres have probably got 2 weeks. By Christmas Eve, I think a lot of guys are going to be gone beneath that Christmas tree, and then we'll find out who's left out there and then what the Padres are going to do.
Yeah.
Tough time to be a GM.
Big decisions here. Hey, let's switch gears here. We'll talk a little about Pac-12. This is from Greg. He goes, Lee and John, I always found it odd that the old Pac-12 never included San Diego State and Fresno State. Any thoughts on this?
I think resources had a lot to do with it. Fresno State's economics in the Central Valley is different. San Diego State has always had a money crunch problem, an identity problem. How do we fund our athletic program and all that? There was at one point where there was talk in the 70s that they were going to get rid of football at San Diego State because they weren't winning. They couldn't fund it. Well, the eras change, etc. But USC and UCLA was never going to allow those schools in. I mean, you already got 2 Bay Area schools, and Trojans, Bruins don't want somebody from the South stealing recruits when they could come in and get the recruits to come play. So that's why those schools never, ever got the opportunity. And that's why San Diego State was in the WAC, and then it became in the Mountain West. And then the only reason they're in the Pac-12 is because of the death of the Pac-12, because everybody defected. And in all essence, Greg, the Pac-12 as it's aligned right now on Christmas Eve, that sure looks like Mountain West 2.0 to me, or looks like the old WAC to me.
Yeah, it does. But you know what? There's more to the story to why San Diego State was not in the Pac-12. It has to do with the fact that the University of California schools are kind of a little snotty, to the little brother Cal State schools. And, the Cal State schools, they don't let them have PhDs, although that's changing a bit now. So there's been a sort of a second-class situation that the university leaders and the academics, they didn't want to be associated with that lowbrow Cal State, San Diego State, Fresno State.
You're always looking down your nose at people. Do you carry your UCSD degree in your pocket and flash that at me?
No, I think they should have been in there the whole time, but that's the history, and it's real. I mean, it goes back to the 50s and 60s that there's been a lot of tension between the academics at UCLA and San Diego State, and a lot of bullying. I mean, that goes on at that level.
I worked in Arizona before I came here. I did Arizona State Sun Devil football. They were in that same thing. They were in the old WAC, Arizona State, Arizona. And forever, they were big-time programs. They were the opinion we should be there. They were being the Pac-10 at that point. And they didn't want to look at them again.
Oh, that was a Pac-8 at that point, wasn't it?
Snooty and all that.
Yeah.
But TV dollars changed.
Yes.
TV contracts drove people to say, maybe we should expand. And suddenly Arizona State, Arizona wound up in the expanded Pac-10, Pac-12 conference.
Oh, and that's a much bigger TV market than San Diego or Fresno.
Yeah, and a lot of tradition. I mean, phenomenal tradition at Arizona State. and to a degree at the University of Arizona, which is more of a basketball school than it is anything else. Greg, thank you for the contribution.
Okay, let's go here to Callan. He goes, Lee, if you were king, how would you pump up some life into NHL overtime? 3v3 is cool, but watching the Ducks Habs on Monday had some scoring chances, but a lot of skating around and not much action.
Well, everybody wants to try to create an advantage, get somebody caught up ice, suddenly got a 2-on-1 break going the other way, and that's how you score. I don't know there's a solution. When it was 5-on-5, there wasn't a lot of space to maneuver, so they went 3-on-3 and opened up center ice and opened up skating and passing and all that. And you still get shootouts. The Ducks lost a shootout the other night. Was it Montreal or Ottawa? I guess it was Montreal. So I don't know if there's a pure solution to the NHL overtime, but that game has evolved. That game has changed. But I'll tell you what, you got to make sure you don't get caught in bad matchups when it's 3-on-3 in overtime. I don't want the wrong people on the ice against your number one line. And that's a big issue. And then everybody is short shifts but there's so much open ice when it's 3-on-3. You say, oh, watch this pass. Woo, he comes in off the left wing, he cranks a shot. Or all of a sudden, there's a deflection, loose puck at center ice, puck goes the other way, it's 2-on-1. Oh, my defenseman's in trouble. So with the open ice has kind of made overtime a little bit exciting.
Isn't it interesting how all the sports are monkeying around with this kind of post-game, extra innings, overtime, whatever?
Golden bat. Ghost runner.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone, and then the way the NFL keeps monkeying around with the system. But explain it to me, because I know in the NHL, they would just take a tie. They wouldn't have an
back
overtime.
In the day.
Yeah. So when did that change?
Oh my goodness. I want to say 5 or 10 years ago, it changed. Now, if you wind up in a tie in regulation play, you get a point in the standings.
Mm-hmm.
So then you go to overtime, and the winner in overtime gets the 2 points. You still keep the point you got because you forced it.
Okay.
But if you get bad teams get into overtime, all they're doing is dumping the puck in, dumping the puck out, so they don't want to get beat. They want that 1 point in regulation to get it into overtime. But so they went overtime, then they went shootout. Shootout's kind of fun, but we've had shootouts instead of a 3-man shootout. Now we've had shootouts that have gone 9 and 12 players deep because they couldn't score on a goaltender, or they scored and then I scored. It's kind of fascinating, but I think it's a little bit of a cheap gimmick.
Well, I think the most innovative and best run overtime system is college football. It's like they give each team a shot, and it's balanced. And then, you get a couple of rounds in, you can't do point afters. You got to do the 2 point. I think they've kind of figured it out.
So you weren't aghast that Georgia Tech went 8 overtimes.
No, that's good. That's good. I mean, that's like seated, edge of your seat watching.
Yeah, but it kind of gets old too.
Well, at least it's not as bad as going like 17 innings.
Okay, good deal. Nice to have you on board, Callum. Thanks for joining us. Next one.
Okay, Callum wants to throw this one in. Also, we need an Insiders Group Christmas party. I'm going to keep bringing it up every episode.
I keep asking John, what's the limit on your credit card? You are going to buy shots of Jack Daniels, or we'll figure it out. We got to figure it out. The problem we have is our Insiders Group, they come from everywhere. Well, how many guys that are out of town who are part of the Insiders Group are going to drive down here and want to exchange shots of Jack Daniels with John Riley and me? And he's Irish. He's more Irish than I am. I'm Irish Italian. He drinks more than I do.
They want to see you. You're the legend. You're the franchise. No, we should do this. I mean, even if, we only attract people that are in a 20-mile radius, wherever we choose to do it.
Now, we'll put it in the hopper of things to decide. We're trying to decide the bigger discussion argument we're having is, should we keep this podcast on Thursday or should we move it to Friday going into the Great Sports Weekend? We haven't quite solved that one yet. John's going to come up with a mini poll for everybody on the Insiders Group so they can actually voice an opinion. Go ahead, John. Next one.
Okay, let's go here to Adrian, and he says, it'll be a great day when the Angels are no longer the ass end of every joke. Please sell the team, Marty.
Yeah. Clean up aisle 3, Dollar General. Artie Moreno standing on aisle 3, signing Dollar General players while the rest of the league is signing Juan Soto of the world. I don't understand the rationale. And it's been so long since they've been so good. And the 2 cornerstone guys they're relying on to try to bring them back are ravaged by injuries, Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon. It's just, boy, you're talking about a bad set of circumstances.
Like I said, I just don't get it. I want the Angels to be successful.
It's a market unto itself.
Yeah. And it'd be nice to have like a competitive American League team in Southern California. I mean, it lines up so nicely, and yet it's just this quagmire, that we just don't really understand what they're trying to accomplish. I mean, it's got to be hell if you're a longtime Angel season ticket holder. I mean, showing loyal to your team is good, but you kind of feel like you're getting burned.
Artie Moreno said 2 weeks ago, after he solved the TV deal, they re-upped with Diamond Sports Group, Ballet Sports or whatever it's called now, FanDuel Sports Network. He says, we're going to raise the budget. Okay, well, you just came through the winter baseball meetings. Did you sign anybody at the winter baseball meetings of note? Did you try? And the answer, they came back home with the suitcase empty. No, there've not been any additions to the roster. So are they a little bit better? Yeah, they got a few plug-in veterans who buy them some time, and I like some of the guys they got if they can be the kind of players they used to be. But there's no difference maker. They're no better now than they were last year when they lost 99 games.
I don't even know what to say.
Don't say anything.
Yeah.
Clean up aisle 3.
Okay, let's go here to Carlos, and he says, Hacksaw, you have more Dodger fans supporting your channel than Padres fans. From Baja to the Canadian Rockies, we are your biggest fans.
That's fine. You know what I'd really like? This is my Christmas list to you people. I want you on social media or however you network with all your followers and your sports friends. I want you to tell them what we do on Mondays and Thursdays on this podcast. I want you to tell them about my award-winning website, because the only way we're going to build this and push this thing over the top is if we have a volume of Padre fans and a volume of Dodger fans, and I'll just stand back and let you guys fight with each other every Monday and Thursday. But that's a Christmas gift you could give me. If you people would tell everybody on your Rolodex in your email address book who we are and what we do and make sure they're part of it, because the response we've gotten is phenomenal. I don't do the metrics. He pays attention to the numbers, but it's phenomenal what we've been able to put together for 17 months.
Yeah, it just keeps building and building, and it's great. Carlos and all the Dodger fans, thanks for joining us. We talk Dodger talk, right? And kind of have a different angle, a different approach to it. And so it's all good. And there's so many fans that they don't necessarily remember you from 690. They remember you from LA AM 570.
And 1090.
And 1090. So, yeah, you've got a loyal following up there.
Yeah, blame me.
Okay, let's keep moving. Kenny's water bottle. Hello from the Great White North. Then Mesa Stormy says the freezing White North.
Oh, I'm sure it's a little frosty up there in Edmonton and Calgary and Winnipeg. And it's great to have the O Canada Network here. We do touch and we do talk some hockey on a weekly basis on this podcast.
Okay, let's go here to Halos in the infield. Looking forward to podcasting with you soon, Hacksaw. Can you please grade the Angels offseason so far?
I'd say B- to a C+. I mean, I've added some people who are proven major leaguers. But if you're increasing the budget, please show me where outside of Kikuchi, who I think's solid. Is he going to win a Cy Young? Nah. Is he win 10 games? I don't know. But they, strength in numbers. They need more. They need a star. They need an acquisition that's going to say, wow, I haven't seen that yet. And I do like Kyle Hendricks, and I do like Kevin Newman, and Darno is a proven guy, but they haven't done it on a consistent basis yet. So there's still names out there. So we'll see if they reach under the Christmas tree and they give Angel fans somebody that you can identify with. You say, wow, that's a pretty good acquisition, because I haven't done it yet.
Now they're trying to trade Ward, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the story there?
Maybe they get somebody different. Maybe they get a frontline pitcher for Ward. I mean, Ward did hit 25 home runs this past season. I think about a 250, 245. So he can swing at some, but I don't know. I just don't understand it. I mean, if you're sales pitching to me that all's well, because you still got Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon, I ask the question, where do you get that from? They haven't been able to stay on the field. And you can't tell me my other two outfielders hit 201 and 205 and all's well there, because they're not. So, Artie, get off aisle 3 and go find me some names that I can identify with that I can talk about for Angel fans and say, yeah, because right now I don't see it.
Well, in one of your best 15s recently, you said that the Angels want to have Rendon as a designated hitter.
Maybe.
But isn't that what they talked about for Trout?
Exactly.
So
but
what's the deal?
Trout wants to play every day. Trout gets hurt playing hard. Rendon gets hurt because he just gets hurt. I went back and looked at the stats on Rendon. John, I think he's there's been a total of 408 games that he has played, or 408 games he could have played in the last 4 years, and he's missed like 268 of them. It's just phenomenal number of games that he's been out, and he's collecting all that money.
Yeah,
and still,
and getting in fights with the fans.
Yeah, and he still owe him 2 more years.
Just, injury. I mean, I think of Kawhi, all these guys that are superstars that should be so much better. Rendon was so good with Juan Soto in 2019 with the Nationals. I mean, I thought this guy was going to have a great career, and everything went to hell.
Yeah, he lost his health at the airport. They lost his bag. He's been hurt nonstop. We'll talk more. Angels. There's still names out there to go get. Artie Moreno, get off aisle 3. Dollar General, go make a deal somewhere else. Next question.
Let's go to RM. He goes, please take the Chargers and Clippers back. The Raiders have more fans in LA than the Rams, Chargers, and Clippers combined.
Raiders. If you were sober enough, RM, you'd really be upset that they're 2-10. But obviously you're not sober enough to understand how bad they are. Fascinating story today. Tom Brady confirming he will be the lead consultant to Mark Davis in the search for the next quarterback with the Raiders. And I don't know whether that's going to be Cam Ward in Miami, Shedeur Sanders in Colorado, but Brady is going to be part of the evaluation people in that front office. So he's come in not as a minority owner. He is going to be a loud voice in trying to fix the Raiders. And boy, they need help in so many different places. You can wear silver and black paint, I don't care, and wear the colors and the jerseys and all that. But at the end of the day, you've had 2 winning seasons in 22 years. I don't know if you understand that. Why do you accept that? But Raiders got a lot of work to do to fix that thing. But Brady's going to have input now.
Interesting. Remember we were saying maybe conflict of interest because he's also working for Fox Sports. But that story sort of dissolved.
Well, he's still got the limitations as to what he can do. And I don't know if I were a lead analyst and I didn't have access to head coach the players and I could not do what the other network people are allowed to do from CBS or NBC or ESPN, I don't think I'd like that.
Do you think he's getting better as an analyst?
Yeah, he's getting better, but he started out as a C and he needed a lot of reps and he's gotten better, but he doesn't set the world on fire. I don't think he's as dynamic as Greg Olson. I don't think he's as dynamic as Chris Collinsworth and obviously Tony Romo. So Tom Brady, he's 4th on the chart. 4th.
I love it how sportscasters, they consider it reps. You got to get more reps in front of the microphone, but it's true. I mean, I could say that for doing podcasting. Okay, let's keep going here. We got more people to get involved. This is from Emerson. Lee Hacksaw, I've been hearing you since your times in Los Angeles. I was a youngster when I called the radio station. Always support your talking points.
Oh, thank you. Proves one thing. You do it long enough, you should get good enough at it. I got an email from a guy that I used to work with in Phoenix way back. It was really funny. And he'd been in radio for a long period of time. And now he's retired. And he said, I remember working for you. I was so afraid of you when you were in Phoenix because you were so loud and so boisterous and all that. And he said, you made some comment to me the first night I was running the board for your show as a producer, and I had made a mistake, and you got on the intercom and made some crude comment. And I said, Mike, I don't think I made that comment. If you did make a mistake, I probably would have gotten on the intercom during a break and said, your next mistake will be your last. Or I would have gotten on the intercom and I would have said, here's a quarter. During the next break, go home, call your mother, tell her you don't think your career in radio is going to work out.
But
and my favorite one was before the show even started. And we had all these young board ops. So they were good kids and we tried to guide them along the way. But I mean, I ran a fast-paced show with a lot of guests and interviews. And we had a young girl from Arizona State was doing an internship. And she was really bright. And she wound up getting a job at the network and did very well. And she was looking at me. I could just tell she was nervous. And I punched the intercom button before we were on the air at KTAR in Phoenix. And I said, no problem. Just don't screw this up.
Well, speaking, our relationship, you like to throw around a lot of crap, and at first it's intimidating, but
BS.
No, it is. At first you're like, who the hell? This guy's in my house and he's like throwing shit at me about this podcast, but it's all good. It's all in the fun of it all. And once you kind of get over that, and if you're like a college student, it's going to be intimidating, but Yeah, well, I mean, it's all good.
Yeah, when I said, "Here's a quarter, call your mom and tell her you don't think this career in radio is gonna work out." I don't think that went down very well.
Hey, let's go here to Ed. And he goes, I hope North Carolina learns something from what happened with Herm Edwards at Arizona State.
Well, that's a really interesting point. Now, the athletic director, Ray Anderson at Arizona State, had this same philosophy that Herman Edwards did about how we're gonna run it as a business, and because that was pre-NIL. It's a really different time right now. I have no doubt if my kid were a right tackle or a safety, would I want him to go learn under Belichick? I think I would, just because Belichick's track record and his attention to detail and his intelligence. I've told John I interviewed, I think, Belichick 3 different times. I was fascinated interviewing him as a talk show host. He would not tell me any inside information on the Patriots or Brady, et cetera. I didn't expect that. But once I got him off on talking about philosophies and X's and O's and history of football, he's a great military historian. My God, he was unbelievable. He's like Woody Hayes. I enjoyed him, but I don't think I would have enjoyed working with him if I were working for the Boston Globe or WEEI and had to deal with all that condescending crap every day at practice and the limitations and the generic statements and, as I would call them, "Oh, Bill, that's a comment, non-comment. Clarify that, would you please?" I'd get tired of that because that's the game he played. Now, he got on TV, and I've been really impressed because he's been open. He's had fun with it. He's done streaming and podcast and all that. So he's done some kind of cool things. But in the daily picture, daily grind of having to cover this team and deal with him as the point man when he has nothing to say and he's wasting the 18 minutes of my time that I'm given with him, geez, not for me.
What was the line from Herm Edwards? Was it "You play to win the game"?
Yes,
Was that the
exactly.
one?
That's the line.
And the other one was Dennis Green. Is "They are who we thought they were," or whatever. Yeah, every one of these coaches has a line that you always remember.
Yeah. I'd get tired of dealing with Belichick, but dealing with a distance that the 3 opportunities I had when I was voice of the Chargers and Seahawks, and we went to Foxborough and played, and that was at the height of the greatness of the team. It was kind of fun, and I remember asking him about Parcells, because they were kind of cut from the same cloth. And I dealt with Parcells a little bit too, and he was really dynamic. I mean, he had fun with the media, and he was really glib. This guy was dour and mundane and all that. I like dealing with both of them. What the hell it says about me, I don't know.
It's all the cast of characters, these NFL and college coaches. Oh. They're unbelievable. I mean, they're leaders of men, and they've got to rally their troops, and they have to have a personality.
Yep. Okay, thank you for the input, Ed.
Okay, let's go here to Joe. He goes, when expanding, why does the Big Ten always skip over Pitt when they are a natural and historic rival to Penn State and have a history of the Big Ten? Also, Pittsburgh is a major metro area, which would be a benefit to the Big Ten network.
I agree with you. And I mean, people in Western Pennsylvania are fanatical about being fanatical watching their teams, Pitt Panthers included. I don't know whether it was an academic issue, whether it's a money issue. I mean, the Big Ten has always been hotty-toddy in terms of academics. They're kind of up there looking down at everybody. Maybe that's got something to do with it. I was so upset way back in the day when the Big East dissolved, because if you think about Syracuse, Pitt, Penn State, West Virginia, Boston College, Maryland, I mean, they're in a quadrant in the northeast corner. Those are all big markets. And if you had good programs funded properly, the Big East had a place at the table in big time sports. Now, Big East basketball eventually did, but it wound up costing, because, Syracuse, I was shocked when Syracuse went to the ACC. And then I was shocked when Pittsburgh wound up going there. And then BC, they make no geographical sense. There's no historical rivalry. That doesn't make any sense. You get excited about Syracuse playing Wake Forest? No, you didn't get excited about that.
Well, when you think of BC and the ACC, you think of them playing Doug Flutie, against that Miami. But Penn State, I thought they were always in the Big Ten, no?
But originally they were there was a gentleman's agreement. It was called the Big Five. And that was Pitt, Penn State, Syracuse, West Virginia, BC. It was not a conference per se. It was kind of an emotional attachment in football. But anyhow, that became the Big East in basketball. And Big East in basketball for over a decade, 2 decades, was just phenomenal because of St. John's and Georgetown, Syracuse, etc. But the whole thing scattered. And, got freaking West Virginia, the Mountaineers. I've been to Morgantown. It's a beautiful state. The poverty is ungodly. But they love the Mountaineers in that state. They're playing in the Big 12. West Virginia is playing at Oklahoma State. You kidding me? Anybody attached emotionally to that rivalry? That's like what happened this year. Cal Golden Bears, they're playing Clemson, or they're playing at Wake Forest. You got to be kidding me.
It's interesting too. The Big East in basketball now is sort of kind of like the West Coast Conference, where all the schools are like Catholic universities, or many of them are. So it's interesting how that sort of evolved differently with basketball.
Yeah, I wish it had not imploded the way it did, because the Big East, I think, had its own place at the table, but then it kind of got away from them.
Well, your old colleague Scott Kaplan, he's a Pitt Panther, right?
Yeah. Same storyline. I mean, Pitt Penn State, what a fierce rivalry, but it's only in the 814 area code and the 412 area code. The rest of the country doesn't care about Pitt Penn State, but that's big. It's kind of like it's Indiana Purdue. We talked a couple weeks ago about the Old Oak and Bucket, the great rivalry college football game. I was in Indianapolis the weekend that game was played. I was doing hockey. Nobody cared about Ohio State, Michigan. It was like, that was on the other side of the border. Who cared? All I cared about was Indiana, Purdue, the Old Oak and Bucket.
Right on.
Yeah. So these rivalries, the Egg Bowl, Mississippi State. It's huge down there.
Egg Bowl.
That's what it's called. Yeah. Yeah. You need to get out of the house more.
Yeah.
The Centennial Cup, Arizona State, Arizona. Yeah. UCLA, USC, Civil War, Oregon State, the Apple Cup. I mean, there's great rivalries are there. Some have been blown up. Some have now been reinstituted.
Well, just to stay on the Pennsylvania theme, like this weekend in the NFL, it's Steelers-Eagles.
Yeah, battle for the Keystone State.
That's a pretty fierce rivalry, I would imagine.
They don't play each other very often because they're in different conferences.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mike Tomlin stood up at his Monday press conference and said, I am proud to represent the WPIAL next Sunday. People around the country say, what is that? Well, that's the Western Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic League. That's the high school league in Western PA, and high school football is monstrously big everywhere.
That's like Dan Marino turf.
Yeah, Joe Montana turf. You know how many quarterbacks have come out of WPA? So anyhow, he says, I'm glad to represent the WPIAL against those guys from back east. He's talking about Eagle fans, Philadelphia, etc., because the guys in the WPIAL, the Aliquippas of the world, would kick the ass of the Philadelphia schools in the state high school playoffs.
It's a battleground state, as they say in the world of politics.
In more ways than one.
But it's true in football, too.
Okay, let's do a couple more here.
Okay, let's go to Chris. And he goes, the Christmas party, make it happen. I would drive for days to throw down Jack Daniels shots with you studs.
Well, we'll take it under advisement. I'll have my people call his people.
Okay. All right. Let's go here to social media. We got a couple of guys here.
We got more than a couple.
Yeah. All right. Let's go here to talk a little Padres, and I gotta remove that other. There we go. Okay. This is from Abe Froman. You know who Abe Froman is? By the way, it's a sausage king of Chicago.
Oh, okay.
That's from the Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Okay. So Abe says, I don't think this ownership group knows what it's like before, when 16,000 fans were there on a Friday night. Nobody bought any Padre jerseys. And when the owners were begging for season ticket sales, if this is true, not cool, Padres. Fans stepped up. Peter stepped up, and sounds like new brains are ready to take it all for granted and cheap it out.
Well, I'm bothered by it because this community in 2 calendar years has done a phenomenal job making this a destination point, Petco Park. And I do understand luxury tax problems that come with busting the payroll limit. But, if you're at 170 and you have drawn the kind of fans you've done, and you're so close to being a World Series team, I would think you should push this payroll up to 190 or maybe even 200 and just get close to the limit. Because you're drawing revenue, record attendance. I just think you owe it to the community. Don't sit there and tell me rationally, okay, now it's going to go down to 150. Because I don't like that. Because you're getting rid of players, which means you're not going to have the roster you had last year. There was one game away from going to the National League Championship Series, and there's nothing in the farm system right now that's coming. So I'd hate to see him take a step back.
Now, I've seen statistics about what percentage of revenue is allocated to players on the payroll. And wasn't the Padres like around 55% or something like that?
Yeah. And that was a higher number.
So my question is I wonder what the next, like the number 2 and number 3 expense would be for a major league team. I mean, obviously they have employees all over the place.
But your baseball operation, I mean, every team has 200 players under contract, major league through the rookie league complex.
Mhm.
That's the max number you could have is 200. But, nobody pays any attention. Medical cost is ungodly. I mean, every time somebody gets hurt, MRI. You know what MRI cost? I've written a check for MRI. It's like $1,800. It's
Yeah.
phenomenal. So, I mean, you think of all the medical stuff and then all the travel stuff. And then obviously the salaries. Your franchise is not just a 25-man roster. Your franchise is 6 farm clubs, 200 players, plus managers, plus coaches, plus AJ's entourage of scouts that are, as I say, boots on the ground. They are everywhere internationally.
Well, the minor league players, aren't they part of the minor league team budget? I mean, obviously the signing bonus, the major league team
the
covers.
Padres pay every penny of everything.
So that's all counted too.
Oh yes, that's an expense.
I just assumed that, the El Paso Chihuahuas had their own little bucket of a budget.
No, all that money comes out of the Padres checking account.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
'cause they pay for everybody.
Okay.
And then you got the stadium operations and all the people it costs to run Petco. I mean, it's phenomenal.
Yeah. And they've been, and to their credit, the Padres are making a lot of investment in Petco as well.
Exactly. But please don't tell me your investment of payroll is going to be decreased from last year's $170 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Next one.
Okay. Talking Juan Soto here. This is from Uncle Daddy Ray. 15 years at $765 million. Two things. First off, MLB owners have way more money than I ever thought. Second, this will be a bust. Dude will be good for about 5 years. Then will be a dog the last 10. Combo Trout and Pujols.
Well, Trout and Pujols have been done in by injuries. Let's be honest. Money's no object to Steve Cohen, the owner of the Yankees. And he's not done. There are more player acquisitions coming to the New York Mets. But at the end of the day, the pressure on Soto, I think, is going to be much different than the pressure was at Yankee Stadium. Because he not only is he the big money guy, he's the only guy outside of Francisco Lindor. Can you really tell me any other, quote, superstars on that Mets team? And if they don't win, somebody made the crack this morning. If he doesn't have a good season, if dude's hitting 246 and he thinks Aaron Rodgers has had a bad season with the Jets, think what the media response is going to be if Juan Soto can't be Juan Soto because he's not surrounded by Aaron Judge and a lot of other really good frontline pitchers across town at Yankee Stadium. So, but the Mets are not done. I think there's more acquisitions coming.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
You're going to put on your tinfoil hat for a conspiracy theory?
Here we go.
Some people have said that Juan Soto is not 26. He's actually older. What do you think of that?
I have no idea. But, I mean, there's no doubt he was a great player. I mean, he came up through Washington system fast. He got there real fast. And we talked about this prior. There was at one point, we had Soto, the young outfielder Victor Reyes. They had Trey Turner. They had Strasburg. Actually, they had 3 good young pitchers. All of them broke down. I thought, wow, and Bryce Harper. I thought this franchise is going to be here for an extended period. But then the world changed and the prices went up and the Lerner family said, we can't pay these prices. We're not corporate America owning this franchise. We're not the Guggenheims, the investment bankers who own the Dodgers. And then guys went away and then guys got hurt. And then Soto turned down $440 million and they said, end of relationship, we're going to have to trade him. So.
Well, just to add on to the conspiracy theory, and it is a conspiracy, but I saw a photo of Juan Soto, allegedly 18 years old, and he looked like a normal high school kid. And I remember when he was 19 playing for the Nationals, and you're like, who the hell is this guy? I mean, like a completely different person at age 19 than what he looked like at 18, assuming what you're hearing is true.
You can buy any conspiracy theory you want, but like I said, sometimes you have a tendency to do this podcast from left field. Well, I think you're out in left field on this one.
Do you think Pujols lied about his age?
No, because he went to community college in Missouri or Kansas before he got drafted really late.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I don't think he lied. He was a late developer, but obviously he became monstrously big and he became a great power hitter. He was a good human being too.
Yeah, he's a good guy. But I think we all still remember Danny Almonte. 14 years old, pitching in the Little League World Series.
Clocking 89.
Yeah, from 46 feet.
Yeah,
or whatever it was. Okay, let's keep on moving. Let's talk UCLA football. This is from Handsome Uncle Tommy. Chip Kelly sunk this program. Terry Donahue drove me crazy with his conservative style of football and setting the bar at conference championships and never national championships. Now I would kill for the slow, steady hand of a consistent 7-9 win season and the occasional 10-win season. I've never seen UCLA football so bad.
Yeah, this thing has eroded terribly. I mean, they're firing all these assistant coaches that Deshaun Foster just hired 9 months ago. That's a problem. I was shocked early this week when I found out that Justice Martin, who's supposed to be the starting quarterback next year, who had played this year a little bit when Garbers got hurt, he's gone. And of course, they lost Dante Moore the year prior. He went to Oregon. He's in that collection of quarterbacks that Dan Lanning stockpiling up there. Their talent level is so low right now. The interest is so low. You know, John and I talked about UCLA basketball. Once upon a time, Pauley Pavilion was the place to go watch a game and be. They're drawing 4,300 or 3,800 fans for home games for a really good Mick Cronin-led basketball program. UCLA is just, they've got all types of credibility problems. And just gave the athletic director a 3-year contract extension, and he's the one that hired Kelly, and he's the one that has overseen the fact that they're, $160 million in debt in the athletic department. It's just a bad situation. And of course, crosstown, nobody cares about Trojan basketball, even though Musselman is there and trying to work hard. And obviously, maybe they guessed wrong on Lincoln Riley. I don't know. It's been strange. He's lost so many players in the portal 2 years running, and they haven't won either.
Yeah, it's just amazing how much college sports has changed.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously we could talk about the Pac-12 and it blew up, and there's been a lot of, conference realignment. But I'm going back, I'm thinking, what was the first really significant team that switched conferences? Was it Nebraska going to the Big Ten?
Well, that was the beginning. I mean, Penn State went into the Big Ten, then Nebraska, which made no geographic sense, but walked away from their legendary decade upon decade rivals. I mean, Nebraska, Oklahoma was the only thing that counted in Lincoln, and they're gone. They left the conference. And of course, Oklahoma's gone too now. They're in the SEC, which makes no geographical sense. Once upon a time, the regions were really, really good, and now them scattered to the wind and go to the cemetery. Right there, the headstone says Pac-12 Conference lost its life. Thank you, USC, UCLA.
Amazing. I like last night before the Aztec basketball game, I was watching a replay of Bronco Mendenhall's press conference at Utah State. What a good guy, you know. But it's just all these moving parts. If it's not conferences and organizations, it's coaches and now the players. I mean, everything is changing. Hard to keep track of them all. You probably have a crib sheet to keep track of everybody.
Not for good. It's not good. And somewhere, somehow, there has to be an antitrust exemption to college athletics that will give the NCAA's leadership control of the portal and the NIL, and we'll get some rational decisions made as to what you can do and what you can't do. Because now it's the Wild West. And like the Colorado State coach, Jay Norville, he just lost his mind at his press conference this week talking about my top 26 players have all been tampered with by agents. And they're just trying to steal them and then deliver them somewhere else and get in the commission.
Well, it's just these old school coaches don't like the new world, and that's the thing with Bill Belichick. I don't know if he's going to be able to handle all this.
Well, that's why he's got Mike Lombardi, but Belichick's reputation is pretty doggone good. I mean, his history of teaching and the systems and what he thinks is important in terms of value in the person. I'd let my kid go play for him. I don't know whether my kid could play in the NFL, but my kid would get a good football education in addition to a good college education at North Carolina. But it's going to be different. I mean, it's a whole different environment to be in that game compared to the environment that he had in the National Football League, where you're in that building 12 hours a day. It's not going to be that way at North Carolina. It's not that way anywhere else.
Spygate, North Carolina. What do you think?
Yeah.
You can have these drones flying. You've been hearing about these drones in New Jersey.
Yes.
You'll have drones like all over the ACC.
Just absolutely amazing. And speaking of the whole Belichick thing, you got to go to my website. You got to read my column that I wrote today about Belichick, One Man's Opinion column on my website. I think you'll like it. Let's do one more social media.
Okay, we got a Padres roster comment here. This is from Douglas, and he says, Dodgers improve with Blake Snell signing. Mets improve with Juan Soto signing. Padres, you got a huge problem in the NL. San Francisco Giants even signed Willie Adames. You got a problem.
Well, they do have a problem right now, but as AJ Preller said, we laid the groundwork, and there's still a lot of players out there to go get, and there still may be the Dylan Cease or the Luis Arise trades, which would probably net them a different type of player, maybe younger players. But if you start subtracting cornerstone guys from your roster, do you really have the same roster? Do you really think you're going to be equal to what you were last year when you had the Dodgers right there by the throat and you let them get away? I go back. I think about that playoff game. I was at my cottage in upstate New York. I was in a bar, a biker's bar, surrounded by drunk Yankee and Met fans. I'm watching the Padres Dodgers and seeing the Padres lose that home game. My heart sank, and I thought, oh, you let them get off the hook. And then they did let them go off the hook because you had 24 straight scoreless innings, and the thing was over. I mean, you talk about the end of the season being sudden. Wow.
I just have this vision of Hacksaw in a biker bar in upstate New York. I mean, that would have been something.
Bartender was a Cardinal fan, fanatical Cardinal fan who was eternally pissed that they're not the Cardinals they used to be. And I got Met fans and Yankee fans, and they were all loaded, and they're sitting there, and it was a lot of fun. And then one of the guys, I'm sitting in the bar, and they asked me what I did. So I told him I sports talk show guy. I did NFL football, And 15 minutes later, a guy comes back in the bar. He's got my website posted up on his cell phone. Look who this guy is. This guy's really important. And so then now I wound up doing a talk show. Guys are buying me Utica Club beer, sitting there drinking. I'm doing a talk show while trying to watch the Dodger game.
Oh, but you love that.
Oh, it was good.
You like the attention.
It was fun. I went back there 3 nights in a row. It was just... And I don't drink, but I drank a lot of Utica Club beer that night.
Good stuff, man.
Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed this podcast.